All right, this is Andrew, and doing the one of our second IgniteWire episodes. This is going to be episode 150. I'm sitting here at the Ignite conference with Todd Baginski. Todd, how you doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Good to be here with you.
Good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a while. So you've moved back to Cincinnati or the Colorado or the from Colorado area, haven't you?
Yeah. I moved back. It's been almost a year now.
Yeah.
And I'm actually flying back Thursday morning, so I can get back in time to go to the Bengals game on Thursday night.
I'm hoping to be home by then. I drove up from Florida, so I should be able to get back in time. At least I hope so. If not, I'll be streaming it in the car on the way home.
Right on, right on. Well, I know you're not rooting for the Dolphins in that game.
I'm not rooting. I'm rooting for between 5 different fantasy football leagues. I'm rooting for a lot of teams right now.
You got AJ Green on your team?
I do have AJ Green.
There you go. Let's hope for a big game from him.
They shut him down a couple of weeks ago. It totally killed me, man. My lineups have been terrible. But
yeah, last game was not good against Denver.
No, not at all. Not at all. But hey, Todd, people who aren't familiar with you, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them, Twitter handle and stuff. Who are you? Who's Todd Baginski?
Sure. So, Todd Baginski, lucky enough to have been a Microsoft MVP now for 10 years, hopefully 11 here in October. Twitter handle is Todd Baginski, TODDBAGINSKI.
Okay.
And
we'll have that in the show notes, too, just for everybody. So.
That's cool. That's cool. So, I'm a partner in Canvas Consulting and the CTO there. And we specialize in liberating people and their business solutions. And that is what we do as a consultant group. So we do product development, help other people develop products, do a lot of work with Microsoft to build training content and demos, as you know, for them. And then we also help out clients to build real-world applications, too. So in the past, most of that work we've done has been SharePoint related, but now it's a mix between SharePoint, mobile, and a whole lot of cloud technologies as well.
Awesome. So I know one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, we kind of linked up sometime last week, and I know that you've been working on some of the demos that are being used here, and some of the stuff that you guys are also doing, not just for the demos this week, but some of the businesses you guys are doing. Some of your clients, and I wanted to talk a little bit and find out, what your experience is like, the kind of things you've been building. You told me you've been doing some stuff with the SharePoint framework, which I know we're going to talk to Mike Emerland from the SharePoint team on the show this week. But I guess talk to me a little bit about that, what's your experience doing the SharePoint framework? What's your take on this new way of doing SharePoint development?
Yeah.
I haven't spent any time with it, so I'm really curious to see. Other projects, man.
Okay.
Paying projects take their big priority.
I didn't know that.
I know it from the peripheral, but I have had zero hands-on experience with it so far.
Okay.
So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it. We've talked about it once on the show, but we've never gone into any detail.
So my first exposure to it, well, you were there for that day after Summit a couple years ago when they kind of asked a group of us what we thought about where they were going with it and gave them feedback, and then participated in the first dev kitchen, and then followed that as things evolved and worked through it, building some samples internally with my team just to get used to working with it and seeing what it was all about. And then most recently, about 6 or 7 weeks ago, Vesa contacted us and said, hey, we'd like to build a hero demo on the new SharePoint framework so we could show it at Ignite and then give it a longer life on that, where we could turn it into training content, put it on GitHub, make code samples, and use it for code camps and things like that.
Right. So Vesa is one of the guys with Microsoft. He's on the team that is doing the SharePoint framework. And when you say hero demo, that's a term that we commonly use for a big demo that's going to be like a soup to nuts, like a real client project kind of a thing.
That's right.
That you want to give all the code away for. So you guys may have been familiar with, say, the property inspector that I know that you were responsible for.
Yeah.
Your team was responsible for with Office 365.
So this one doesn't have the scope that the property manager had. That's like the biggest sample in the world, I think.
It really is.
It's huge.
Mobile apps.
That's right. This one's more simple. It's it's one web page. And in it, the sample we created is actually something you could use in real life. As you mentioned, the hero demo is designed to be something that's not just a Halo world, but something useful and that you'd really build, so you can see the patterns behind it. So this one that we have, it allows you to essentially facilitate leads and managing leads and going after them as a small business. So it allows you to enter opportunities into the system, put in contacts for the companies associated with those leads that you get, and then also assign activities to those opportunities. Like I need to follow up with an email, or I need to send them an SOW, or I got the SOW from them, I need to sign it on my end and send it back. And so it tracks an opportunity from the point it enters your pipeline until you close or lose the opportunity.
Gotcha.
And so it's all list-backed with SharePoint lists. It has 5 lists of data that hold all that.
Gotcha. So so your experience in building it then, I mean, like, you know, what do you think about the framework? What's your like, we've been doing SharePoint development, you know, since way back before we, you know, right when we got features and solutions and even beyond that.
More than a decade.
Yeah, it's kind of scary when you say it like that. I started doing it when I didn't have any kids, and we were single. We had no kids. Right. We were out partying.
That's right. We would close down the SharePoint every time. My God, not the case anymore.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now it's like I just want to make an appearance and get to bed early, or at least that's what I want to do.
Get up and work out in the morning.
How often that happens? Hey, you were good. You got up and worked out this morning.
Yep.
I put it on the shelf this week. I got up and ran the day before I left. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get this in because it's not happening in Atlanta. But yeah, so your experience in building in as a developer and working with the SharePoint framework, you know, what's that like? What's your experience? I don't want to ask you if you like it or anything. If you do, feel free to share that. But it's more like, you know, what is it like? What can people expect from this?
Yeah, what you can expect from it if you come from a SharePoint background like we did for the last very long time. It could be a little intimidating at first because, quite honestly, it's working with all those open source web technologies that we never had to work with in SharePoint before. And so you got to get your head around that to begin with.
Yeah, the whole node thing is brand new to a lot of SharePoint traditional Windows developers, right?
Yeah, and we've done some of that with mobile apps that we built before, or Node.js things we've done recently as well. But once you get your head around that and what's Node's doing for you and the different packages and how Webpack's playing into that, then you're over the hump.
Yeah.
And they've got the Yeoman generator, which creates your code for you at the beginning.
It's like the file new project experience.
Right. But that's a lot different, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Because we're used to living in Visual Studio and say file new project, like you said, pick the one you want, and now start adding code.
Yep.
And now you don't even use Visual Studio. You just start at the command line, and then you open up Visual Studio Code or whatever else you like.
Yeah, it's the same, like a lot of the same style that we're seeing from, like all a lot of the web technology kind of development you're seeing being done. A lot of the Node developers do that kind of stuff. A lot of people that are doing like single page apps and Angular based stuff or React based stuff and everything. So. And the framework's all based in React too, right? It kind of where it pushes you in a React direction.
It is. That's where they're going with it first.
Yeah.
As far as we know, right? And so that's interesting that you bring that up because that's another thing you talk about experience. What do you have to learn? What do you have to get over the hump with there? Well, the first time we built the hero demo web part, the opportunity tracker we call it, we built it in Knockout. And the idea was they've already got some samples out there in React and they've got some in Angular, but there were no Knockout samples.
Gotcha.
So we said, all right, let's build it in Knockout. That way there'll be a sample in that too. And we've been using Knockout all the way back to the point where we built the SharePoint or Saturday SPS Events mobile app.
Okay, yep.
That is built on Knockout in Cordova.
Yep.
And so we've done that for like 5-6 years. We know it real well.
Yep.
We built the first opportunity tracker version of the web part in Knockout in 2 days.
Okay, yeah.
Completely done.
Yeah.
And then after we had that guy done,
Scope change,
that's right. Now let's, hey, you know what, we're pushing Knockout really, or not Knockout, React.
Yeah.
We need you guys to rewrite it in React.
Right.
And so our experience with React before that was really just what we had done in the dev kitchens.
Gotcha.
We'd never had a client before who said, I like the React framework, I want you to build on top of React.
Gotcha.
So it was brand new learning. But I think one really important piece to point out is we took what we had already built, and in 2.5 days, Theo Shi and I converted it to React. From only have been doing hello world level React stuff ever in our career before. So if you think about that, that's pretty good framework to work with then, right?
It is pretty good. It's a pretty good way to learn a new thing too, when you want to take an existing, not a monolithic style application, but when you take a like a demo based application, it's written in one language, so you don't have to worry so much about the the business rules, the business case, and what's the flow going to be like and everything. And instead, or the user experience is going to be like, you can focus on, I really just want to rip this one tech out, and I want to put this other tech in. So it's, how do I do X? I know I need to do this, and not so much of trying to figure out the tech as you're trying to figure out what you're building and stuff like that. That does make it easier, I guess.
So in 2.5 days, go from being knockout, not complete rookies, but definitely not real experienced guys in it, to writing it soup to nuts and all of that, and handling everything we needed to. And the other thing that we did is we moved it to React. We, instead of using the styles we created for the app in Knockout, we then started using the React components that are built for the Office UI fabric. And so the drop-down lists at the top to set filters and sorting values turned into the command bar. And then the list, instead of being a bunch of an unordered list with a bunch of LI tags in it, that turned into one of the real React Office UI fabric list controls. So on and so forth throughout the app. And then, so that taught us a whole lot about how to import those components, and then how to use the styles in the Office UI fabric that are not part of that component set yet, because that's a brand new component set. And then we also figured out how to use the Office UI responsive grid as part of that as well. So there's 2 viewports to this app now, where we only had one in the Knockout version. So you have a large viewport where you get the list on the left-hand side, and then all the details about those opportunities are on the right. But now when you're in the tablet viewport, that list turns into a drop-down. And you
like a little hamburger pops up.
And everything snaps underneath for the detail.
That's interesting. So if people wanted to see this, you said this is going to be used in one of the demos, one of the sessions this week?
Yeah, Vessa's going to show it in his session.
So Vessa, how do you pronounce that? Is it Juvonen? Is that right?
You got it.
I always mess that up. So if you guys want to see this demo that Todd's talking about, go where they're posting all the videos for the sessions. I believe they're posting the videos in this conference.
Yeah, they should be available the day after.
Usually it's Channel 9, I think, is where they'll find it. But if you go to Channel 9, we'll try and find a link to the session as well. I'll put a code to the session in the show notes as well. I think we're going to publish this before the video comes out, so we'll put the code in there, and then you can go find the session and go take a look at Vesta's session and see the demo. You
mentioned Mike Amerlin talking about that too, and so one other thing we're doing is we're working with Vessa and Chax and Mike Am and Rob Howard, and we're going to meet up with them tomorrow and talk about how do we take this sample, how do we take the existing samples they have and wrap training around that. So we're going to make some labs out of it, slide decks, like in the Office Dev repository. I know you made a lot of them in there. And then wrap a couple videos around it too.
That's good.
So it's going to turn into, okay, you not only got this hero demo app, but you're going to learn how to build it piece by piece.
It's funny. It's good to hear you say that, because that's been one of the challenges that I've had with the SharePoint framework, is that when it was first mentioned, it was kind of a little teaser that at the May the 4th thing, and then later when it came out, all of the experience around, I guess, the pitch for it, the marketing around it has not been there as much as like the framework has been there, and so really it's people that are more on the insiders bit that are actually that are able to get in there and have communication with the teams and understand stuff. So it's good to hear that they're doing that to get a better, more broad kind of approach. It's one of the reasons I wanted to sit down and talk to you about this and find out your experience, because most people haven't had the experience, and they're really just getting their experiences right now from people who are blogging about it, like Waldeck, and putting posts out there. And
Waldeck helped us out with that project.
That's
actually
cool.
I had weekly meetings with him and Vessa, and throughout the project I would talk to them, show them experience. Waldeck helped unblock me on a couple things that I wasn't familiar with regard to React and some of style importing, and helping me get the grid wired up and things like that. So he was really helpful, and that's really good. I think he probably knows more about the React and the SharePoint framework than anybody at this point, though.
He has been absolutely immersed by it. He's like the unofficial marketing channel for the SharePoint framework, it seems.
I think you're right.
They're doing a good job with it. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, you told me a little bit about some, maybe not for a demo that you're doing here at the conference, but you had some work that you've done on some cloud-based projects in Azure for some of your clients. And you don't have to go say the company names if you don't want to, but Tell me a little bit about the stuff that you're doing with there and like what your experience is, what kind of tools you're using in Azure, what do you like about it, what do you not like about it, stuff like that.
Gotcha. So I just start with, I love it. I love working in Azure. I find it so easy to deploy resources with those ARM templates, and so repeatable to do that.
Yeah.
And my ability to build a system, if you architect it right ahead of time, to make it scale so easy and so quickly. And
nice to be able to
we've seen that. Yeah,
nice to model in a resource group and then just say export the template and I can go tweak the way it works.
Boom, yeah, done. And not everything in there is 100% done, but like almost everything we've played with, you can do that to it. There's hardly any manual steps left.
Yeah.
The other thing that, so what we've worked on is one of our clients, they are a law enforcement company that makes law enforcement software.
Okay.
And so their software runs in police cruisers, on phones for police men and women, and also in the police station.
Okay.
So they use it during roll call in the morning. And what it does is it gives police officers a real-time view into all the crimes and data associated with fighting crime.
Okay.
And you can kind of think about it as combining an internal social media network with real-time data associated with law enforcement. Because the social media aspect is, if you're a police officer and you're out on the street right now, you see something that happened, you can post that into the system immediately with pictures and video and text, and annotate it with the GPS location, all kinds of information, and it's immediately available to the whole force.
Okay.
And so it also pulls in information from 911 systems.
Oh, okay.
And also data like sex offenders or career offenders or all these other categories of bad things, essentially. One story I can tell you about the application, it's a short one, but it helps you understand how powerful this system is. So we heard this story from our client. These stories never start out good. But so the story goes is that there was a young girl who had a gentleman touch her in an inappropriate way on her way home from school.
Okay.
She went home, told her mom about it. Her mom called 911. The policeman came out to talk to them about it. He opened the software. He pulled up the list of sex offenders in the area who were registered within like a 5-mile radius of where this happened. The pictures pop up on the screen. He shows the pictures on his tablet to the little girl. Boom, she points right at him. That guy did it. The police officer goes over to his house, arrests the guy. He's off the street. He's not going to do it to anyone else. And usually they told us that that type of scenario is it gets into a file at the end of the day when the report is written and submitted at the station. It goes into the queue for the detective the next day. If he can't figure it out, it's filed.
So that'd be able to instant reaction, learn about something, find out what it is, identify what's going on, and be able to act on it right away.
Exactly.
And that's what it allows you to do, instead of having this like 24-hour cycle or something that, where additional bad things could have happened.
That's right. So they got him off the street, before it could happen again, and they got him too because they were able to show the little girl who that happened to. Was it any of these people? And before, the detective is going to get to that next day. If he would have pulled up all that info himself, now he's got to drive out to her house, wait till she's home from school, or pull her out of school.
Sure.
That guy's still out on the street doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't have time to follow up because there's a murder case that gets in the queue in front of him.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. So there's a few other stories, but we don't have forever to talk about them. But there's many stories we've been told about how amazing it is to solve crimes and make things, get bad guys off the street and get them locked up at ASAP.
It's, giving access to the data. The whole concept, where you have the idea of we want to give you access to the data of what you need to get your job done faster, and then so you can act on it. That's exactly what just happened there. It sounds like. So what is working with Azure? What does it actually give you in terms of like what's the benefit to your business, and like what does it give you in terms of the different tools and stuff that are available to you to be able to to be able to build an application, to rapidly deploy it, to be able to rapidly scale it? What kind of stuff can you take advantage of with that?
So I'll tell you exactly how they took advantage of it. So when we started working with them, the way that they got the data about the 911 data and all that other type of data, the sex offender list and pictures and things like that into the system is, for every police department they had at a client, they would have to write a program to deploy to that client's environment, and then they would have to write the code to move it through an ETL layer, and then they would have to write the code to put it into what is currently SharePoint lists, which is what their application's front end is built on.
Okay.
So they have to do every single one of those one-off, run it through SSIS, all these other things. Very labor-intensive process to onboard a new customer.
Sure.
And it was also done previously in such a way that the components weren't really reused a whole lot. Some of it was, but not as much as it could have been, because it was older technology. And so they had a huge data center footprint as a result. They have very stringent, rules and regulations around where can this data be? Can one client's data be on the same farm as another SharePoint's data? The answer is no, according to government regulations. So they're stamping out SharePoint farm after SharePoint farm in their own CGIS compliant data center.
That's not cheap.
Huge, no, not even close. I mean, the bill that they showed me of their data center costs a year, it was one of the highest ones I've ever seen for a company of this size.
Not even just the deployment or the licensing around that too. I mean, those are separate farms. So wow.
So they still have the SharePoint piece in it, but we're actually a week. Let's see. 2 weeks from now, we're going down to LA to chat with them, and Microsoft's coming too, and we're going to move the SharePoint part into a microservices-based approach on Azure for the front end.
Gotcha.
But what we did already in Azure is we replaced that ability for them to take in a feed, and we did that in Azure. So what we wrote is we wrote a component, which is really a command line executable that runs in the police stations where this data originates from.
Okay.
And so that's configurable via a WPF app we made that has a wizard on it that basically says, what kind of feed are you connecting to? How do you authenticate? What's your poll interval, etc.
Okay.
So you just run this little wizard, and what it does is it basically makes a config file, and then it schedules a task to run that executable. And the executable looks at the config file, knows how it needs to get data, it gets the data.
Gotcha.
Then enter Azure. So in Azure, we set up a web API, and it's just a REST-based web API.
Okay.
All encrypted and all that good stuff that you need. And this runs in the Azure Government Cloud. So it's a facade layer pretty much. It always expects getting a JSON API of feed data.
Okay.
It doesn't know what the shape of that feed data is. So it's smart enough to say, when I get this data, I'm going to put it in two places. First place I'm going to put it is in a queue for this specific customer and this specific feed.
Okay.
The other place it's going to stick it is table storage. It never goes anywhere after table storage with that end of it. It's just for a raw record in case there's ever a lawsuit and they say, what did this data really look like coming from us once it got into your system, or they need to...
That's just archival.
Yeah, or something fails, you can double check against that.
Sure.
So it gets popped into the queue, and after it's in the queue in Azure, then we have right now worker roles, because at the time a web job wasn't CGIS compliant, but we're actually converting it to a web job now, because that's now CGIS compliant. Okay. So the web job then picks the data up, plucks it out of the queue, puts it into the staging database, which is running in IaaS right now on Azure, but we're moving that to PaaS now. Okay. At the time we built it, the PaaS offering didn't offer an encryption level that was CGIS compliant, but now it does.
Gotcha.
So that IaaS now turns into PaaS, and that gets cheaper.
Yeah.
The SSIS portion is still not available as part of a PaaS offering, so they still have an IaaS VM for that.
Gotcha.
So it then flows into there, and then SSIS picks it up, does things like geocoding addresses, validating data, making sure data is not bad, or like it's filled with script tags or other ways to hack the system.
Gotcha, yeah.
And then it takes it from there and it pumps it into SharePoint right now.
Gotcha, okay.
And so every time now that they need a new customer onboarded, all they have to do is go run that agent, configuration tool at their customer.
Yeah.
Boom, you've got the data ingestion.
Yeah.
Don't have to touch the REST API. It stays the same.
Right.
Then you stand up a new worker role. Like I said, it'll be a web job in the future.
Sure.
You just set the config settings and say, here's the queue that I'm supposed to process. And then you go into the ETL layer in SSIS, and you just take that SSIS package. And if it's a very similar CAD feed, because a lot of the police customers use the same CAD vendor for that 911 data, then you just change configuration settings to map the data coming in and where you want it to go by column name.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have different business rules, though, so you enhance the package a little.
Yeah.
But as you can see, it's just a couple components to change along the way, and bang, you've onboarded a new feed. And let's say something catastrophic happens, and one of their clients, for instance, let's say that there's a terrorist attack in that city.
Right.
Imagine the 911 switchboard.
Overloaded.
Yeah. So what does that mean? You've gone maybe from 5,000 CAD records on an individual feed coming in. All of a sudden, there's 25,000.
Yeah.
Azure takes care of it. It just, boom, scales right up. The jobs go up. Every piece in Azure just scales right up. It's processed, it flows right through the system, and you still land it on the police officer's device that they were interacting with in the same amount of time.
Awesome. That's really cool. I'm sure our listeners are going to be interested to see how real application, how you're taking advantage of those things, how it scales, and actually migrating from an existing system over to like this new model and stuff like that. That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
And next steps for it is what we're doing next.
Yeah.
We're actually getting rid of the IaaS VM for SQL because that's really expensive.
Sure, yeah.
It's a few $1,000s a month.
Right.
We're going to move that into microservices-based architecture with Azure Functions and Azure Data Factory and Logic Apps. And that's going to replace SSIS. It's going to put it all into them just paying for compute. It's going to get rid of that SQL Server license. And that's going to shave about $50,000 or more a year right there.
Wow. Real savings right there. And it makes it easier to kind of manage too, because you don't have a VM you got to manage, you have to water it and patch it and all that kind of stuff. So
they have another system we're doing the same thing to. They're paying over $200K a month in Oracle licenses. We're going to put the same architecture on it. Add that up. That's a lot of money at the end of the year.
That's a heck of a lot of money. It's a lot of savings too. That's really cool. Well, hey, Todd, I appreciate you sitting down with us and sharing a bunch of this stuff with our listeners.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, man. And hope everybody likes this. And of course, we'll put you got any links you can share with us to the different things that you talked about. We'll definitely include them in the show notes. And I'll put Vesta's session code in the show notes, and also those other links that we talked about. I'll make sure those in the notes as well, so everybody can grab them that way.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot.